I asked Brendan Burchard that question, and the best advice he gave me was physical in the book is a game changer that people aren't doing. Nobody's done that. So now you have something unique.
Yeah, that's a fantastic idea. And that's the first time I've ever heard of it happening. Hello, Mr. Evan Carmichael.
All right. So I don't actually remember what we're doing, but you're going to give us context and we're going to go do it. So
Yes,
ladies and gentlemen, Nick from Book Thinkers.
Well, hello, everybody. I was chatting with your team and I reached out and I said, hey, I'm putting out a book in the next 12 months. And as part of this
Exciting, dude.
Yes, very exciting. I'm super excited. I'll give you more info in a second. But I said, as part of this process, I want to speak with some of my favorite authors. Mm-hmm. And I want to learn a little bit more about their writing process, any tips, tricks, recommendations, and sort of just pick their brains and also give credit and thanks to people like you for inspiring me to get this far in the journey.
Cool. I love it, dude. What's the book about?
Yeah, so I would like to write an introduction to personal development and behavior change. And the reason that I call it that, and I don't have the title or subtitle really figured out yet, or really the hook, but the number one question that I get at Book Thinkers, and this is consistent for the last couple of years, is, hey, I'm brand new to the industry. I realize that I have some unfulfilled potential. What is the first book that I should read? It's the number one question, but it's such a tough question to answer because everybody needs something a little bit different. And so there are so many things that I wish I knew when I first started this journey that could have accelerated my path through this industry and helped me navigate things a little bit. So yeah, it's what I'm looking to write over the next 12 to 16 months.
So you're going to write the book that people need to be on their first journey?
Exactly. Yep.
And then does that intro people to other books? Or are you taking like pieces from, like, is it choose your own adventure? What are you doing?
So and I'm still fleshing this out. So I'm working with a self-publishing services company called Book Launchers. And essentially they assist you through the process from A to Z. And so I'm sort of in that story mapping phase where I need to get my original outline kind of nailed down. And I want to serve, just like you do, as many people as possible and give them guidance. And in my moment of guidance, I think to step in, like I said, is that moment that they become aware of their unfulfilled potential. So maybe you're in your late teens, early 20s, mid 20s, late 20s, early 30s, and you see other people around you are starting to elevate their lives. And you say, I want to do some of that. Like you stick your head out above the water and you say, wow, I'm capable of doing more. And there are a lot of different pathways that you can go down. And a lot of people choose books, but they choose the wrong book and they get turned off from this industry, or they receive a lot of criticism from friends and family that say, hey, self-help is just a bunch of get rich quick schemes. And so what I'd like to do is introduce people to this industry in the beginning of the book. And then I'm thinking right now, 12 different pillars of personal development and talk about my personal experience with each one of them, sort of summarize that area of the industry. And then like you're saying, point people at the end of the chapter if they want to learn more about that area. Like if that area that they're reading about, let's just call it like health or mindfulness or whatever the case is, if that strikes a chord with them and it helps fulfill some of the pain that they're feeling, then I'll give kind of recommended reading, like the best of the best in each area. Like you've mentioned to me in the past, though, I'm sort of sensitive to naming a book that won't be relevant in 5 years. So I'll probably go back and do some of the classics. That's what I'm thinking right now.
I like it. I mean, I immediately think to kind of promotion mode, because it's one thing to write a book and you've got an audience, but it's also like, okay, how do we like break beyond the audience? You don't want to go publisher. You want to be self-published?
Yeah, for this book. So Book Launchers, which is this amazing company, they presented me with an opportunity to help to kind of go through the journey and step into the shoes of a writer. And like I said, they assist with every part of the process. So rather than going the publisher route for my first book, I want to try this out. I want to get kind of down and dirty and go through every part of the process. And as far as
you might be able to get a deal.
Yeah, I've been told that by a couple of people, and I have some great relationships with publishers as well. Yeah. But I kind of want to own all the IP. Like I want to rock it.
Yeah, I hear you. At least you have the choice to be able to do it. A lot of people, when they're first starting, they don't have the choice. They just have to self-publish because the publisher wouldn't talk to them. Okay. The other thing that comes to mind is if you connect with, you've had a bunch of authors on your channel who you actually like, when you can intersect who you actually like you actually feel comfortable recommending their book with giving them a section in the book, that becomes a promo opportunity afterwards. And maybe you've already thought about that. Maybe you're already doing that. But, you know, if part of it is purpose and you're talking about built to serve, I mean, I would come and help you out anyway. But if I didn't know you as well or care about you as much, like, oh, okay, you're going to feature built to serve in the book. You give the 1 to 3 page synopsis of it and then get people to go buy more. If you like it, then that's an easier plug to say, hey, come on, let's talk about your book. And oh, built to serve's in there. Great. You know, I don't know if there's other authors who've been on your podcast, who you've interacted with, who you would feel comfortable making that kind of relationship with.
Yeah.
They're much more likely to have you come on.
You've been such a great mentor to both Ryan and myself, and I feel totally comfortable interacting with you. Yeah, I'm kind of game planning. I mean, I'm still so far out. I'm still in the idea creation stage, but that's why I'm having these conversations so that as I get more comfortable pitching the book and people recommend things, I can kind of puzzle together a plan for the next year and a half or so. Another idea, which is totally unrelated to my book, but I just read another book. Basically, this author hosted a podcast, and then he took his favorite episodes, condensed them into a couple of pages, and put out this small actionable book. And I've always thought, man, I'd love to read podcasts because I prefer reading over audio. And then I thought, why can't we do that with the Book Thinkers show? I mean, we've already got 50 something episodes. We're not going to stop. Credit to you again. And maybe what we could do is every 20 episodes, we condense them into a book. And that's a promo opportunity for people as well. You know, your episode 1.
Yeah. I mean, that's Tim Ferriss made that model.
Yeah. He
super
did.
Easy to copy. The next step is just figuring out the marketing and promotion of it, because the writing of the book, something like that, is actually not that complicated. There's a little bit of research, but you've already done the Q&A. You've already had the names on. Your own journey is a different story because you got to think back, how do I want to present this as a book? But if you're doing a Tools of Titan kind of mashup, you could easily pop one of those out every 50 episodes. You can easily then increase the frequency of your episodes of the podcast to get a new book every month if you wanted to. The challenge isn't in getting the content out. The challenge is marketing and promotion of it, so that how many authors have a book that then it goes nowhere? Yeah. So like being smart and strategic about actually not just creating the book, which will be easy, but the marketing and exposure of it afterwards.
So with your book, outside of what the publisher assisted in, what has been the most successful marketing and promotion strategy for you? Because that is where my head's at. Like, I've read hundreds of these books and I know I'll be able to write a pretty good one, but it's outside of the Book Thinkers family audience. You know, what are some strategies here? That's kind of what I'm game planning now. Yeah.
So I think that's smart. Like, I think you'll be able to, I don't think it matters what my writing process was. I think you'll be fine. Like, I don't know how many of these you're going to be doing, but I think picking people's brains on the promotion side is where you're going to need the most creative ideas and support, more than block off one day a week. And, you know, like you'll be fine at writing the book. It's how do you get it out into people's hands? I asked Brendan Burchard that question, and the best advice he gave me was have people read the book. So then I asked him immediately, like, will you read the book? And we filmed him at his home in Puerto Rico reading a section of the book. And I didn't even have Built to Serve at that time. I had the concept of it. I mean, I had the manuscript, but I didn't have a galley. Like, I didn't have an actual book. So I had my wife print a jacket of the cover, because we had a cover design, just no galleys. And then I wrapped Your One Word with the Built to Serve cover. And then I picked out, you know, a section in here that I felt would be really relevant to Brendan's messaging. And I hand wrote it inside a blank page of Your One Word. And then he opened up the book and started reading
That's amazing.
You know, like 3 sentences or something from the book. So that really helped, right? And I used the video with Brendan to then get everybody else and my friends just to have a demo. So, you know, Dean Graziosi and Jay Shetty and Lewis Howes and Tom Bilyeu and all those guys who are in my circle all helped support the book. Some people would rather just talk about it. So Grant, was a mutual friend. He's not going to sit there and read the book. Like, Grant's running a million miles an hour. So we did a quick IG live. He's like, hey, I got a new book out. Evan, I heard you got a new book out. What's it all about? And we have a conversation about it. And he's like, everybody, Evan Carmichael's a good dude. Go pick up Built to Serve, right? So getting people's support to either do some kind of IG live, YouTube video, as well as do a read of the book that then you can use in your episode, sponsored by your book. Mm-hmm. And here's Grant Cardone reading a section from it, right? That really, really helped to give more credibility and support. And it's your job to then find the section from the book that is the most relevant for them, that's on brand for them, because they may not read the whole thing. So if you point them to page 42, when you highlight, like we would send them the book, highlight the section, I think this is on brand for you. Would you read it? And then almost everybody said yes. I'm trying to think of somebody who said no. If they said no, it's just like timing that didn't work out.
I love the strategy. Yeah, I've sort of condensed that term, and I don't know where it came. It could have come from you, but I call it borrowing credibility now. And so, over the next 12 months, the purpose of these intro conversations, and I'm filming all of them, of course, is so that over the next 12 months, I can talk with 100 authors and tell them a little bit about what I'm trying to write, which will progress over time and change, and then be able to give advanced, to be able to give advanced copies to people like you're saying and try to get them to read a little section. I think that's a great strategy. And also to give credit to people in the back of the book who took the time to speak with me and kind of share tips and tricks and things like that. Grant, as an example, I probably haven't followed up with you on this, but when we first started doing the podcast and I was talking with you and I had already landed Grant for episode 9 and I was like, woohoo, let's go. And we actually ended up going down to Miami and filming with him in person at the end of last year. And the episode never came out, but it's coming out in a couple of weeks. And so leveraging people like that and getting the book in front of them. And I mean, that's kind of where my head's been at right now too. And I think it'll be important, because people like you and people like Grant, who are not authors first, you guys have big audiences for other reasons. There's a big crossover. I mean, a lot of the people that follow you don't follow book thinkers. Same with Grant. So yeah, it's a fun strategy.
I like it. I wonder if there's even, if you're self-publishing, is it actual print on demand or is it you have to buy 1,000 copies? What are you doing?
No, I'll use Amazon. Yeah, the Amazon KDP services. So actual print on demand. Make it available everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, the fun idea is so my book, like Built to Serve, is not, it's kind of self-published, but not. Like we use a publisher, but we negotiated a different deal than a typical publisher. I love the idea of even having different jackets, limited edition jackets, or even custom, like you can have a Grant Cardone version or a different Carmichael version.
Wow.
But then it's just a different jacket. It's the same book, but the Evan Carmichael version is gold. And I sign 100 of them or something, right? Just like to have, then you just have to ship, either actually ship the jackets to me and I'll sign them, or just a sticker like signed by author that are in, that's how most people do it.
Sure.
If it's print on demand, you can do that kind of stuff. If it's publisher, they don't want to do those low quantity games. Yeah, exactly. Like I could sign.
Yeah. Those are my notes.
You could sign a whole bunch or some kind of customized jacket, and then you do a limited edition drop. Just how do you make it more interesting for the person? So we could do an IG live together promoting the book, and it's promoting the Evan Carmichael version of it, custom jacket, that's signed awesome. Editions for people to go and buy. And same with Grant and anybody else. And more likely to get their buy-in because you're making them feel special inside of also promoting. Like if you're going to promote, if one of your sections is on how to think bigger and you love the 10X rule and you're going to promote that at the end and have your 3 takeaways from the 10X rule in 1 to 3 pages, it's easier for Grant. I think people will say yes to you because they like you, because of your audience, all that. But if you have the extra bonus of, oh, they're in the book, and the 10X rule is the number one recommended book for thinking bigger, they're much more likely to support.
Yeah, that's a fantastic idea. And that's the first time I've ever heard of it happening. I mean, you have models like the Miracle Morning, Hal Elrod, where he'll then write a subversion of the book for entrepreneurs or for writers or for whatever, and collab with different people. And so what you just mentioned is very unique, and you're totally right. I mean, it's self-published. I own the IP. I can upload a different version with a different ISBN that maybe gives more of a focus to your book. So maybe there's a bonus chapter related to Built to Serve or something like that. Yeah. Different cover, maybe the two of us hanging out on the back of it or something, and have you sign copies, and then even split profits or donate to a charity or something like that. It's definitely, this is more for purpose. There's money involved too, but that's...
I don't think the authors will care.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care. Grant doesn't care. Grant's not going to track how many sales did you make, Nick, and how much did I make in my royalties. This, like, he doesn't care. He cares about the exposure, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, if you have a custom chapter, or you know, if Built to Serve is in every book, but then the Evan Carmichael limited edition version has highlights from our interview together, or a deeper dive into the book, or something else that's just more custom. And you do it with authors who are willing to help promote.
Yeah. I'd like to position this too as a complement to any other book. So it's not to replace the industry. It's not to replace reading Built to Serve. What it's going to do as part of the introduction is teach people how to read these books the most effectively to lead to behavior change. So how to take effective notes, how to implement information effectively, kind of like how to navigate this space in the way that I wish I could have 5 or 6 years ago, so that I didn't waste time reading some of these books that went in one ear and out the other. So
you know how I would do it? Honestly, you've read Principles.
Yes, Ray Dalio.
Yeah. I assume. I mean, I barely read, so any book I read, you probably read. I think that format, and I'm just spitballing ideas, I think that format would serve you super well, in that he has 3 sections, and the first section is all his story and how he built Bridgewater and timeline and chronological order. And then section 2 and 3 are the actual principles. I think you could do something similar, where the first section is your story and your journey and how you didn't believe in personal development and how this book changed your life. And now, you know, look at you and what you've done, and you want to make personal development accessible. But what Ray says in his opening section is, hey, you don't even have to read this section. If you just want the best principles, like, skip this. And if I'm boring you with my story, go to section 2.
Yeah, I do remember that. That's a great idea too.
So the first part is all about Nick, but then sections, and maybe it's only section 1 is Nick, and section 2 is then broken down to 20 different areas where you've got, okay, purpose and how to find your purpose. And here are the 3 books on it and my 3 takeaways. The rest becomes, part 2 becomes a tribute to the books that you love and you think people should. It's choose your own adventure. If you want this, go here. You're doing it anyway on your IG stories, where you say, hey, what's a book on finance that I need to read? Oh, you should read XYZ, right? And anytime I don't know the answer, I tag you. Like, I don't know, but Nick's got an answer for you. So section 1, just about your story and the journey and how to take notes and all that kind of stuff. And then section 2 is about all the list of 30 books that you'd recommend depending on where you're at in your stage of life.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm navigating in that direction right now. I mean, it's such a simple and actionable thing to do. And I love books that, like Ray's book, that just say, listen, this part might not be relevant, so don't waste your time reading it. Time is precious. Skip to the section that you really picked up the book for. And I'll be able to touch on a really diverse set of subjects because my life has improved dramatically in so many different ways, just like yours has, right? I mean, you're healthier, you're wealthier, and you're wiser than you ever have been. And so am I, and that's going to progress forever. It's my one word.
I got another idea for you. This is great.
Hit it.
So in that kind of choose your own adventure, I think of Tim Ferriss too is the same. He says that in Tools of Titans. This is not meant to be read from cover to cover. This is meant to be pick the thing that you need the most help with and go there. Like, don't worry about reading the whole thing. It's a 1,000-page book or whatever Tooth Titan, is. And some people will still read it cover to cover. It's huge.
It is a big one.
That's a giant book, right?
Yes, it is.
So some people will still read it cover to cover because you probably read it cover to cover.
I did. Once, but then I went back through it and I pick it apart. So just like you're talking about. But
that's how most people think of reading the book. And I think it's actually a poor structure if you're just getting into reading or personal development. Because if you don't get hit with something that is fire out of the gate, you're not going to read the rest of the book.
Yeah.
So what would be cool is a lot of people have, maybe not a lot, but a bunch of people have done that choose your own adventure style, like Tim Ferriss, like Ray Dalio. What's missing, and it's just coming to mind, is the assessment tool at the beginning to help figure out where should I go next.
Yeah.
Like, how do I know if I'm missing purpose, or how do I know if I'm missing thinking bigger? How do I know if I'm missing, if you have 18 chapters in the book, how do I know which one to go to? For them to pick the chapter assumes they have the self-awareness to know which chapter to go to. But if somebody's at the beginning of a personal development journey, they don't have the self-awareness to know where they want to go. Mm-hmm. So you give them a quiz at the beginning. Answer these questions.
Yeah, I love that idea.
We talked about this before, like for your website or something, right? Like to answer these questions and it'll point you to you wanted to build a directory, or maybe that was the app. I don't remember how we had that idea.
Yeah, we did. You told me about the guy on the West Coast along that driving path who, anyway, you wanted to collect all the stickers or something. I do remember the conversation that we had, and we put something up on the website. It's not really, it's just a list of books broken down by genre. We haven't built that tool yet, which is still in the back of my head as a great tool. But I got a gratitude journal recently that had a ton of questions in the beginning. And it said, score yourself from 0 to 10, 0 being terrible, 10 being amazing, on all of these different categories. And the really interesting thing that I've never seen done is it said, after you circle a number, write the direction you feel you're trending. So if it's health, then you could put 7, but trending negative right now. And so then you can kind of add them up, and you can get a direction as well, so that you can sort of put a stop to the negative compounding of something that's going poorly in your life. But I like that idea that you're talking about, and building it online would be much better, which I like that idea as well. But you can have it physical in the book too.
I think physical in the book, I don't even know what I just said. Physical in the book. I'm so excited. I'm slurring my words. Physical in the book is a game changer that people aren't doing. Nobody's done that. So now you have something unique. But also, I would think back to Nick from 5 years ago or 7 years ago. What would he want? Not what would Nick like right now? Because that's who you're targeting. The person who personal development is almost a dirty word. I don't want to join some cult. This is all BS. They're just going to rip me off. And how do you make it accessible? So the whole trending feels like a much more advanced self-awareness issue that like now would be cool. Like, oh, okay, yeah, my relationships are at 8, but I feel like it has been trending down since COVID or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. I don't think the person at the beginning knows. So you have to write the assessment tool in a non-scary way. That what are they looking for, right? Like first off, the buckets. Is it health, wealth, or relationships? Those are always the 3 big ones. He's looking for something.
I was looking in the beginning of this book, Factfulness. Okay. He brings you through a list of questions that you actually write in the book and you score yourself on. So I like that idea. I mean, you're totally right. So many books don't do that, to the point that, look, I can even see what I voted in here back in the day. So I love that idea. That's
so would 2016 Nick fill that out?
It would need to be as simple as possible. Yeah.
But like, just keep that in your head. You've learned a lot, you've grown a lot, but now you're weird. You're not normal anymore. So you can't design for Nick 2021. It's got to be for Nick 2016. What form would you actually fill out that you're like, I don't know about this personal development thing. Okay, whatever. I'll try.
Yeah.
Because that's your goal, is to give them like, this is the book that if you pick up this book, it's going to change your life because it's going to start you on your journey. So you're taking that person who thinks everything is a cult, but I don't know, maybe I'll pick this one thing up. I'll try. So that's what you got to tap back into, that, whether it's 2016 or 2014 or 2018, Nick.
2016, you hit the nail on the head.
Oh, we hit it? Okay, yeah, 2016, Nick. That's it. He's like tired of life going the wrong way, wanting to step up, not sure if it's all BS or not, but open, and doesn't want to get hurt and doesn't want to be disappointed. I think of dancing because I have a salsa dance studio. And a lot of times when people go dancing salsa, they go to a salsa club, and that first experience makes a huge difference. Particularly for women, so if you go in and you dance with somebody and they're way more advanced because they know what they're doing and you don't know what you're doing, a lot of times it's a bad experience. Sure. Some of the women have come to our school, like the guy leaves them on the dance floor, like they're dancing a song. He realizes that she can't dance, so he leaves and goes to somebody else. And it's so defeating that then they never want to dance again. So that first experience makes a big, big, big difference, because there are some books that are going to be amazing and some books are going to be giant letdowns. And your goal is to make the first book an amazing experience, to prep them for what is to come and introduce them to all these great books. So yeah, channeling Nick 2016, who's super skeptical, wants more, but doesn't know that books are the thing. Somebody told him about books, so whatever. Okay, I'll pick this one up. What would you need to see? Whether it's the story, the choose your own adventure, like what would you actually like fill out in the book? Like health, wealth, relationships seems like an easy one to start with, to then guide people in different directions. But then like what's next? And if you're picking classic books that you feel will live forever, that will age super well, then you can design, like if you have 30 or 50 books, you can design a quick 10 question, multiple choice or whatever to guide people to the right book.
Yeah, I love the idea. So all right, a lot of things to unpack, but I know we have to wrap up in a minute here. So one thing that you mentioned that I want to hit on that I love is that for everybody that read The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss and loved it, there are 10 people that read the book and stopped after the first chapter because it wasn't relevant to their lives. And they missed out, if it was the first book that they picked up, on the rest of this industry. And so you're right. Like, I want to make sure that doesn't happen. I want the universal answer. Like, yeah, Rich Dad, Poor Dad is the most common example, but same thing applies. I mean, if you are anti-investing in money and you're just totally against that headspace and you see all of Robert's other books and you think this guy's just out to get you, you're not open to the book. And so for everybody that loved it, there's a lot of people that didn't. And I want to make sure that this book, I don't want to talk to everybody because then you're talking to nobody. But at the same time, I want to make it friendly enough for that 2016 version of me who was very skeptical of the industry and of books in general. I hated reading.
I mean, our missions are aligned, dude. I would encourage you to look at my homepage as an example, not as necessarily best practice, but just as a concept or something to pull from. Because when I was redesigning my website, I looked at my contemporaries. I looked at Tony Robbins and all these guys. And when you go to Tony Robbins' website, you see him on stage, jumping, freaking out. You see a bunch of people in an arena going crazy. And I love that. But if you don't know who Tony Robbins is and you're super skeptical, you're like, I'm not going to that. That's a giant cult. I am not joining that. That's crazy. So if you look at my website, I designed it with the super beginner skeptical person in mind. And it's much more about the vulnerability and how much I sucked and struggled. And it was just about getting the right mentors and the right strategy to help me get out of where I was. And so sharing those stories, and people connect much more to because who you're trying to target is the beginners, not the people who are already into personal development. So it might be a jumping off point for you that's all just my story, but you sharing your story and telling me about 2016 Nick, and then giving me the questionnaire and then giving me all the books that I can go and dive into, I think it'd be super powerful.
I love that. Well, I'll leave you with one thought to chew on, which is I'm trying to find a word, and I don't think it is progress, which is my one word. It's my who, but I'd like to find a word similar to what you have with believe, that shows my transition from full of ego and insecurity, late teens, early 20s, to just a place of stability and fulfillment. Like not wild riches, not bad expectations, but like genuine happiness and fulfillment. And I'd like to find a word that I can use for this book to almost be like the verb or the adjective that describes the action as part of my marketing campaign. So I'm going to put some thought into it. I'll probably reread your one word so that I could go through the exercise with that lens, because I'm different than I used to be now.
Yeah, and that's it. Like, you got to talk to 2016 Nick. It's not ego or insecurity or fulfillment. 2016 Nick is not thinking fulfillment. Like, exactly. What does that even mean? It's not. So what is 2016 Nick? What does he actually want? Like, what was the first book you picked up? Was it Rich Dad Poor Dad?
It was. Yeah.
Oh, look at that. You remember. Okay. So like, what made Nick want to pick that book up?
Yeah. Well, a lot of things, but uncertainty around money at that time. You know, the book on the cover said something like, what the rich teach their kids that the poor and middle class do not. And I thought, well, now I'm curious. You know, I went to business school and I didn't know anything about money. So I thought, okay, now I'm curious. But I was looking for that same thing in every area of life. It wasn't just money. It's just that was the book that was recommended to me.
I like it. And I think that's the key, is that in your ninja strategy, what you really want is to open them up to personal development.
Yes.
But you can't say that.
Ninja strategy. I like that.
Because it's too big an idea and it's too overwhelming that they've like, this guy, I'm not doing it. So you have to get them and meet them where they're at. So in your case, it was just, I want to learn how to make money. I'm tired of not having money. And what you thought you were getting was a book about money. And what you got was an entire life-changing experience.
Yes.
But you can't pitch the life-changing experience of 2016 Nick, because he's not ready for that. He just needs the first step. He's too afraid to climb the mountain. It's too big. It's too crazy. It's not for me. All I care about is making money. So you got to go back to like, I don't know. I'm thinking like Neanderthal Nick or whatever. It's not a good word, but that version who just wants one little step. Neanderthal Nick.
Somebody said to me recently, they said, hey, you've got to create a fun persona for yourself. Otherwise, people will create it for you and you won't have control of it. And I thought nonfiction Nick. But now I've got the transition from Neanderthal Nick to nonfiction Nick.
But like, that's a message that people who are part of Book Thinkers can understand, because they all relate to the Neanderthal version of themselves. But it's not a message that the Neanderthals relate to.
I would have been offended back then.
Exactly.
Yes.
So that's not the proper messaging for them. But to start off small, like this is just one. It's not the book that's going to solve every goal in their life, even though it is. You have to position it differently so that 2016 Nick would read it. It's really just, honestly, less time even talking to authors about it and more time just Nick figuring out what does 2016 Nick really need and writing that book for him.
A lot of reflection. In Built to Serve, I loved spending time journaling and thinking about the questions that you proposed in the first section of the book. And I need to do that over the next few months and really get back. I've already had a couple phone calls with people who knew me back then that I haven't connected with since. And I said, you know, do you remember anything about where my head was and why I started reading and how I positioned it? And so I'm getting back there. It's hard though. It seems like a bazillion years ago, but it was just 6 years ago.
Yeah, I would honestly visualize like you sitting down on a bench talking to Nick from 2016, and how do you approach him in a way that he's actually going to listen to you?
Yeah, that guy would have been like, you are bonkers. Leave me alone.
Right. But so like that guy doesn't want to talk to Evan Carmichael or Grant Cardone or whatever.
It's true. Yeah.
Coming in way too hot. BS artists, you know, forget it. But you could, like, that's the trick, is you could, because you are him. So you could connect to him in a way that nobody else can. And in actually having that conversation with him to get him to read a book, that's actually what goes into the book.
Yeah, it's a great thought. And there will be movement throughout the book. I'm picturing a very slow kind of build up and then some acceleration maybe towards the end to get people ready, because you're right. When you pick up a 10X rule, you go from 0 to 100 really fast. And I want to make sure that it doesn't come off as BS, but I do want to make sure people are energized by the time they get out of that book and they're on to go.
And the thing with 10X is it's not 0 to 100. It's 50 to 200.
Yeah. 50. Yeah, that's, that's so true.
And you're trying to get people from 0 to 10. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, Evan, all right. This was very helpful. So I will.
Let's go.
I'm also going to make a little documentary style thing and just try to document the whole process from A to Z. So you will be featured. And I know that I have your blessing. So thank you so much for jumping on with me. And we'll talk soon. I'm excited to go through all the comments later.
If you want to see another awesome one-on-one I did with an entrepreneur just like you, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
Sometimes I sounded like a broken record because I keep saying same things over and over.
Let's workshop one. So
I knew you were gonna say that.
Of course, we gotta get some action going.